Hello, everyone. It's Laura, the energy linguist, and I have an incredible read for you today. I'm here because the collective is going through certain cycles and patterns that are really important to be spoken to right now, especially for us empaths and light workers and those who are really doing our inner work in this attempt to not just raise our vibration and rise to these higher levels and this higher experience within our lives, but also doing this work because we know it actually makes a difference for those we have been called to serve. And so I'm starting by saying that to all of you because I want you to understand sometimes, quite often, actually more so than not, our soul, right? This infinite intelligence of our intuition, the spiritual essence of ourselves will know something with certainty before our intellect and our human ego, that conscious mind, comes online. So often we're called to care about things deeply. We feel about things deeply. We know that there are people in this world whose lives we want to impact. And even when we don't quite know yet what that is or how we might be doing that, we can trust that what we're being pulled towards is our soul's calling. It's the thing that, when we're willing to do the inner work, will open up and reveal itself, and we will awaken to not only what we are, but what we've always been, what we are across space and time. And so today's message has a lot to do with you rising to this highest vibration of living in your light, living in your integrity, living in more peace and unconditional love. And what we're up against when we choose to do this. The message that started getting channeled regarding this collective pattern was around resistance that people have, that the majority of the collective has right now around doing this deeper inner work. And what happens when we resist to look within ourselves is it creates a lot of chaos and pain in our lives, pain in our relationships, right? The way that we're interacting with the world, because we're not seeing ourselves as a part of this intricate collective, right? Where we're entangled with this beautiful collective energy, but instead we're in this mode of self-preservation and denial and this unwillingness to actually look at what is rising and existing so that we can transmute it, release it, and step into this higher way of being. The resistance is real. The resistance to doing the inner work. In fact, even us light workers who are being drawn to look within will experience this really uncomfortableness of cycles, of seeing a thing that you feel like you can't get away from, right? And I hear this echo in the mind that you might be hearing too if you're in this challenging part of this journey, which is that this is the way I am and this is the thing I can't get past, and I'm just, right, too emotional, I'm unraveled. There's all of this energy that's rising around this inner dialogue with dialogue that's not actually yours. I want to pause and ask that you reflect on the thing that seems to keep rising for you and challenge everything you think you know about yourself and about it. There is an answer to helping you to step into more peace, more fulfillment, releasing the anxiousness and the overwhelm and the fear. And this message has a lot to do with that. Before I got on this recording today, I was doing this work in the collective energies, doing a collective healing to get some clarity from our higher guidance around what really is not only in the way, but what is our best opportunity for managing the things that we're going through right now. And so you're going to see me looking at my notes here. the answer was what came through first. And I love when our higher guidance does this because they just point us straight to the thing that is necessary for us to break free of the pattern that we're experiencing. And the answer, which I will dig into the details of, has everything to do with our ability to receive more in our hearts, to actually regulate the energies that are coming in our heart, to properly perceive them and feel into this expansiveness of what our heart has to offer, so that we can rise to this higher level of manifesting with divinity. They actually said engaging with that heart energy in a way that is specifically, actually they had only as it pertains to how we can speak to our divine knowing, speak to and create with this higher divine assistance. And so your support is here. And so I want you all to hear this message first and foremost. Some of you who are in my programs or are clients of mine know that I will receive, because when we do this kind of sacred work together, what happens is that there's this entanglement, this close entanglement that happens. And so I'm in this constant read and sensitivity to my clients and my community's energies. And I can be in the middle of my day and just get this random download, like this lightning bolt download to reach out to somebody. And this happened to me yesterday. I'm sharing this because some of my members will joke, you know who you are, that, oh my God, I'm feeling called out by my guides. Like, this is totally accurate. And they're seeing me, they're calling me out on what's happening in my life right now. Now, we can take this one of two ways. Number one, we're like, oh my God, they're telling on me. But the second, deeper, beautiful truth isn't that they're just telling on you, right? Because when we perceive it that way, what we're saying is, I'm perceiving that they're judging me because I'm judging me. And that's not what's happening. What's happening is what they're saying is, I see you, I'm with you, I'm holding you, I'm telling you that right where you are, I have this support for you. And this will help and this will work. And so it helps us to feel less isolated in this journey to our awakening. It helps us to see and be held by something that exists beyond anything material that you can perceive. And so know that when you're hearing this message on this YouTube channeled by me, when you get reached out to by me, if you're one of my clients, when you're welcomed into the community or you're interacting on an Instagram post and I respond to you, this is truly divinity. It's our angels, it's the ascended masters, it's our guides, it's our deceased loved ones who are actually coming through in lifetime to say, you are on this path. And yes, this path can be hard, but you have everything it takes, which is why I'm right here with you to help you over this next hurdle. Because the truth of the matter is, and I say this with all the love in the world, is that higher guidance doesn't waste its time. We are the light workers that are meant to allow our light to be anchored and ripple out to touch other lives and drive out the darkness. Divinity, the highest vibrations of archangels and angels, the fairy energies, all of these other divinations and divine assistance that's coming through, they don't waste their time with the low vibrational energies. They come to and through those of us who are willing and convicted enough to step onto our path and do our work. And that starts with the inner work, which is the most challenging. It takes the most courage. It takes the most honesty. It takes this willingness to look within yourself, see what's there, love yourself through everything you think you know, everything you've judged, and to choose to say, I don't like what I'm seeing because that's actually not of me. I'm not resonant with it. I'm not aligned with it. So I get to see what isn't me and choose what is. So we can release ourselves from paying the price over and over again for any regrets that might rise when we start to do this inner work. And you have my permission to not make yourself pay more than once, to forgive yourself even when the rest of the world doesn't forgive. Because the truth is, those who are not willing to let go, those who are not willing to give forgiveness, those who are not willing to have more of an unconditional, loving, and accepting tolerance experience with you, sometimes they're just not able because they can't have it with themselves. All things that are projected outward are happening in this subtle, invisible energy within us. And so when you see a lack of tolerance or even lack of tolerance within ourselves, it points us inwards to say, how am I existing in this realm in a way that is maybe intolerant of me? Maybe I'm setting an unrealistic standard. Maybe I'm expecting myself to measure up to something that really doesn't matter to me, that maybe is impossible. Maybe I don't value it. Maybe it's something I don't want, and I keep shaming myself for not wanting. That's what this inner work looks like, is this willingness to go within. Just be real and willing to be different and allow yourself to be the unique vibration that you are. When you guys work with me in my courses and my programs and my community, what you discover is that there's this unique vibrational blueprint that is you. It's like a fingerprint. It's unique. Nobody else in the cosmos has the specific vibration that you have. And when we are constantly trying to customize that vibration to match somebody else's, or to be enough for the rest of the world, or to measure to the standard they want, we're abandoning what we are. And it creates this dysregulation, this discord, and this suffering within our system, because we're falling out of alignment with the entire reason that your soul came to this dense human experience in this lifetime. And so my invitation to you today is to choose your light by being willing to look at yourself with love, just unconditional love, to forgive yourself, to offer yourself the tolerance and the care that you wish was in the rest of the world, right? Start within yourself first. And then understand what you can expect when you choose to vibrate at this higher level. The way that our guides are outlining it, because it can happen in an infinite amount of experiences, right? There's so many different storylines around what happens when we step into this higher light vibration. And our higher guidance wants me to highlight 3 different things for you guys so that you're not caught off guard and you're not internalizing what you're experiencing when you step into your higher vibration. When you choose to be authentic and different, it means that you're choosing to be about 2% of the way that the majority of the world is. The other 98% is operating in this matrix. The way I actually described it to my husband last night, let me see if I can recall, was like, people are plugged into this alternate reality that is literally keeping us stuck in suffering and keeping us playing small. And they're investing in it, their energy. There's nothing more valuable, you guys, than your attention, your intention, your energy, your focus. Why? It's because that is your vital life energy. It's source. It's God within you. It is the vitality that gives you life. And often we so aimlessly and carelessly invested in things that are creating the cyclical pattern of pain in our lives. And so when we're willing to say, I'm willing to be aware, I'm willing to hear the messages, I'm willing to hold myself in the highest love possible when this stuff rises, and to see how I can choose differently and show up differently, what we're doing is we're choosing to co-create with God. We're choosing to allow God to live within us and shine out of us. And when we choose this, what happens is our light starts to illuminate the darkness. The density that exists quite often is existing within the collective, the 98% of the collective experiences. If you're my 2%ers, I want you to know you're a light worker. You are different. You are meant to be. This isn't an error in the design. It is the design that you are meant to lead in a way that is different so that we can break out of a pattern of chronic suffering. Because the truth is, if we keep doing things the same way, we're going to continue to remain in this density of not just collective suffering, but it's this spiral, it's this vortex of decay. And so when you choose to step into your light, which often looks like being different, not engaging with the drama, not being a part of the dynamic and the storylines that either pin others as being faltered and not enough, or pins you as being faltered and not enough. When you're willing to allow other people to hold their opposing point of views, to have their own experiences, and you're not trying to step in and control everyone's minds or intentions or actions, but instead are willing to go within yourself to control your mind, your intentions. What happens is it starts to put your vibration in a place, right? You know how magnets work. In fact, my magnets, right? You know how magnets work. When you stop being on the frequency they're on, right? You start to see what happens. I'm trying to bring it over to it, right? The only way you're going to then be able to sync up with that old is if you choose to match their vibration, you guys. And I'm sharing this because a lot of the times we create a painful story around how isolated we feel or rejected we feel when the rest of the masses that used to be a part of our normal dynamic start to fall away, or maybe they don't include us, or maybe they reject us, or maybe they have a lot of not so nice things to say about us. Maybe they smile to our face and then they say a lot of awful things behind our back, right? What I want you to understand is that what's happening is that those aren't matching vibrational frequencies. And so one of three things is what our guides want me to share with you happens. Number one, when we start to be in our light and illuminate that darkness, it starts to drive out the darkness that exists within other people, meaning it brings it to the surface. So things that maybe weren't as obvious before become more obvious. Now, number one, sometimes it rises within somebody's experience and they can then attach themselves to it. They see what's rising, but because they're not courageous enough to go, oh yeah, maybe that's not the best thing, what they often do is they defend it. They fight for it, right? There's that saying that fight for your limitations and you get to keep them, right? So there's this limitation that they're holding here. And it's like they just want to keep it and defend it because they don't want to even, it's self-preservation. They don't want to say, I'm wrong. They don't want to say, I could do better. They don't want to say, like, there's an opportunity for me to live in a better way. It just feels too, because they're internalizing too much. They're not forgiving themselves enough. And so they won't see. The second thing that happens, which is kind of worst case scenario, is that it rises within somebody, it's exposed, and not only do they kind of like hold and defend, they try to put it on somebody else or something else. That there's nothing to look at within me. This is because you are this way. Something outside of me is creating this. And so often we kind of become target practice for some people because they start to realize, I feel uncomfortable because of this person. It must be their fault, because they're not willing to look within themselves and take that responsibility for reclaiming the power in their life. They want somebody else to be responsible for their discomfort. So a lot of the times it gets placed on somebody else. The third thing that happens, which is best case scenario, is that thing rises. The person looks at that thing and they say, wow, you're right. Like, it doesn't feel good to engage this way. It doesn't feel good to believe in this story. It doesn't feel good to feel this disempowered. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to do something about this. And they start to reclaim their power. They start with this slight willingness to start to do this inner work, this deeper inner work that we're talking about. And so I'm telling you this because it can feel so isolating when you choose your light. When we have sacrificed so much, and if you're an empath, if you're part of this 2% of Lightworkers that I'm talking about, you know in your heart that you've given everything and more for the love of those outside of you, at the sacrifice of you. And it was never enough. And the simple answer here is that it's not because you're not enough. It's because we can't do their soul's work. We can only do our own soul's work and allow that to be the ripple that happens in this world. And so the answer here to finding more peace when you step into your light is to go within yourself and regulate that energy that is within your heart. And they specifically are saying as it's coming in, right? As it's being received. So of course there's this message of receiving more, but what happens when it starts to come in is the perceiving that they want you to focus on, right? Because what's happening here is that what's happening outside of us isn't all that real. Meaning not by storyline. Like, is it really happening? Yes, it's things are happening. But if you put 15 different people in a room and ask them to describe what was happening, they would probably have different variations, 15 different variations of that experience of reality. And so your experience of reality is determined by how you're perceiving something. And that has to do with the filtration of your mind. They literally said that, because when I tuned into this collective energy, what I saw was that there was old, stagnant, it looked like muddy, dirty water, filtrating. So because what I see is, I don't just see chakra energies, I see the soul grid, I see this Taurus field kind of cycling. And when we are in the receiving of divine channel of information and divine light, the energy moves in a different way where it's kind of coming in the crown and down. When we are just kind of in our normal waking material life, the energy cycles in a different direction. And so it's kind of coming upward and outward. And the cycle that I kept seeing looked like dirty brown water. And what they were saying is it was stagnant. It was old filtration is what they said. And so what it's bringing us into this awareness of is that there's this old filter in your mind that was, and I actually see it's old and it's like rusty and like dirty. If you can imagine something that's been in the water for a long time, maybe like with seaweed, and it feels like it's something that ancestors gave to us. Like, here, this is the filter through which I want you to see your reality. And that filter was creating a lot of that internal turmoil of self-judgment and self-rejection, this not enough-ness. And what they're asking you to do is change your filter, just like you would do in your air conditioning unit or heater unit, right? We just like take out that old filter. I want you to put in this new filter. And with this new filter, I want it to be filled with the intention of perceiving your life and your experiences as not just being for you, because it can sound cliche to say that, even though it is the divine truth, but also that it's filtering in a way that is highlighting how met we are by spirit, how supported we are, how we asked for patience and they're giving me an opportunity to be patient. Understanding that your soul is called in certain experiences, even the challenging ones, because your spirit said, I need to develop this certain skill set. I need to develop this certain muscle in order for me to stand at this highest peak of the mountain and serve my life, my loved ones' lives, the collective's lives in a better way. And deep in your soul, you know, you've already said, I'm willing to be that person. I'm willing to take this challenge. And your guides are here to say, yes, you are. And it's because you know you can do it and I know you can do it. And it's why we will remain here, supporting you, guiding you, giving you these signs. Which leads me to this last part. And I feel that I'm probably going to have to do a completely separate read on this because it has to do with oscillations of energy. They want all of you to understand that vitality is actually illustrated by oscillations. Everything is oscillating. Our energy is oscillating. Our heart rate is oscillating. All of our systems physically, measurably, and the ones that are more subtle and harder to measure are all oscillating. What's that mean? Well, we know if we're looking at a heart monitor, if we see a straight line, it means not so good things, right? That person's probably dead or dying. So the oscillations within that monitor is what is dictating how vital we are. And I want you to understand this about life. So often, things are uncomfortable, and you will not want the oscillation to happen. We want it to be high and just on this line, but that is not life. That is not the journey. So your last message here is your guides really want you to understand that this oscillating experience between challenges and joy is the journey. It is part of it. And when you oscillate in a way that is uncomfortable or challenging, please trust in your soul that God and the universe are meeting you exactly where you are with what you need so that you can continue this journey in the best way possible. Because there's something you're meant to do and fulfill, and they're guiding you there. It just doesn't happen without the experiences, this variety of experiences that your soul is calling in. So my invitation to you is to remain in trust as you step into this light and know that you are infinitely supported. You have my support. Feel free to comment below if you want to share an experience or maybe get some guidance. And just know that we are only as alone as we perceive ourselves to be. There are so many other souls, even though it's just 2%, there's a lot of us here that are awakening right now during these auspicious times on this planet to meet the light and step into the light. And it is my hope for you that you find the most peace and light in yourself possible, and know that you can face all things that come your way, and they will serve you if you're convicted in the trust that divinity has your back. I'm sending you so much love, and I cannot wait to be with you guys again. Namaste.